Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sarah Martin with The Contoured Chemist. Can you guess what we're talking about today? We're talking contour. Today is all on troubleshooting contour, some of my most frequently asked questions that my clients ask me on the daily in regards to issues with application, being able to see colors, knowing if it's a color issue or a skin issue or an application issue or if it's a longevity issue, all the things I'm going to talk about today. I'm even going to show you how I literally made spots on my face on this side, and then I showed you how you can contour if you happen to have issues with hyperpigmentation along the same line that you contour. So hopefully that will help. It's all in the application, baby. So if you want to check it out, please keep watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and thanks for being here. Friends, let's get started. Can you tell that half of my face has been color corrected? Let's talk contour. Contour, troubleshooting, the questions I get every single day. I just kind of want to talk about all of them and some tips and tricks that might help you, because I feel like contour is once you get the coverage you want from 3D Foundation and you figure out how pigmented these creams are, then you're like start getting into the nitty and gritty of nailing down your contour perfectly to where you can apply it quickly, easily, get the perfect blend, and it always looks the same. I know that is my goal when I teach contour. The reason why I teach it the way I do is because I want you to easily be able to put it on as fast as possible with the least amount of blending so that it looks the same every single day. And you're not like, oh, I'm having a bad contour day. What happened here? Like, that's the worst, right? So you want it to look the same every day. I will say, I always tell people, give yourself a little grace. If you're brand new to contour, give yourself a lot of grace. If you have been contouring with a powder even, this is very different, and our creams are different than even other creams on the market. So there's a few things you kind of just gotta know that can help you from the very beginning if you're brand new and getting started with Seint IIID Foundation. All right, so first things first, let's talk a little bit about color. So first of all, your artist should be able to choose the right contour color based on your skin tone, your concerns, and even if you're new to contouring, that kind of thing. I'll say I have found some people that I've been given a contour that just doesn't work for them whatsoever. And so there are a few things you do need to know. If you have a contour and you're wanting to know if it is an issue with your contour color versus you're just not applying it with the best methods. So here's a few things. Okay. When it comes to contours, I broke out my old palette that I love so much that's taped up, that's no longer available. But for the most part, I mean, these are all contours. I got some extras in here. Okay, so here are all of our contours, okay? So we have quite a few different ranges, but it's important to know that there's different undertones to contours. All contours are gray-based in some way. Bronzers are never to be used as a contour or vice versa, because contours are meant to create depth, dimension, and shadow, and bronzers are meant to add warmth to the face. So in order for your contour to look the most natural, it's got to look like a shadow, which means it's got to have an amount of gray in it. Otherwise, it's just going to look orange, red, and it's going to look like you're contouring with a bronzer, which look natural. Okay, so our contours, I would say I would divide them up into a couple different categories of like light skin tone, medium, dark, and very dark, okay? But the way your contour applies can be very dependent upon your skin and the color you have as well. So I'll just be honest, the lightest two contours are walnut, which I'll be honest, it's the first contour color I ordered. If you look at it, it's like practically the color of my skin tone. So obviously I wasn't able to see it very well, okay? Walnut is one of our 2 shades that's actually warm, okay? It is a warm undertone contour. And I will be honest, I don't think I have one client that wears this shade. For most people, I would say walnut is too light to be able to be seen well, unless you have very fair skin, like I'm talking Snow White, okay? And if you are that fair, normally people with that fair have some redness or some freckles or something like that. Warm contours don't work well with freckles. They tend to blend in and make them look like a big giant freckle. Like, I'll show you in a second why. If you are like medium skin tone, I would say you wear anything darker than candlelit, you're not gonna be able to wear this shade. If you do, you're barely gonna be able to see it. It won't look really like much of a natural shadow because this is more of a warm undertone. To me, it looks more bronzer than contour. But it's the very first color I wore, and I wore it and I thought I liked it. But knowing what I know now, I know that it is not the best option for 99% of people. So you won't see me color match anyone to this shade as a contour. I actually prefer it as a color corrector in some extreme cases. So that is walnut. The other light tone one we have is aspen. Now aspen is neutral, meaning it's got more gray in it than walnut. I feel like that one was really heavily swatched so you could actually see it. Okay, you'll see how much more gray this is. Okay, but this one looks very almost like blue undertoned kind of gray. To me, it almost pulls more cool than neutral. The other neutral shades we have pull more warm. This one pulls more cool. You'll see aspen a lot as a color corrector for redness. It can work in some cases. I don't recommend it for a full face ever. It can make application a lot more difficult, and I'll get into that in a minute about the formulation of our contours. So aspen can work. I have some clients that use this as a contour, but you also have to be very fair, and it's best for those that have redness or warmth in their skin. Okay, so those are like 2 very fair contours, okay? Both of them kind of can be used for color correction, but as far as contours, I normally will give somebody in the medium kind of range, which is what I call these. So let me see. There are 5 colors that are all in that, let's see if I can show you. In that nope, that didn't work. Oh man, epic fail. Okay, let's see if I can do this. Okay, so I kind of put them in order from warmest to coolest, okay? These are all about medium tone, like medium depth. If you have one of these and you say it's not showing up, another one necessarily I don't feel like would show up more on you because these are all about the same medium tone as far as I'm concerned. It's all in just how you're applying it and how much you're applying, which I'll get to in a minute. So we have stone, olive, henna, and ash, okay? Those are the 4 medium, okay? Stone is straight up warm, like walnut. Those are the only 2 that are warm undertone. I feel like not very many people can wear this color unless you are I call it bronzer girl through and through. I feel like if you maybe don't want to wear a bronzer, but you want to contour, this could work good for you if you like a bronzer look because it will pull warm. Most skin tones that have any redness cannot wear either of these 2 shades, or it will pull warm red, okay? So olive is the next one. I'll be honest, I wore this for years to be my favorite, but now I see how much more warm it pulls on my skin tone that I can't really, it's just that it's not my favorite anymore. Olive is neutral, okay? But neutral will pull warm if you have redness or a red undertone to your skin. It's just naturally how it works because it has so much warmth in it. Henna is the next one. So technically these two are cool tones, but I will be honest, henna I've even seen pull warm on skin tones. So henna actually, I think this one should have been called olive in my opinion, has a green undertone. So it has more of that olive undertone to it. I find this is a great one to start with. If you have redness, you don't have any issues really, you kind of like a touch of warmth, but you're afraid it's gonna pull too warm. So this one's right in the middle, okay? It's not as warm as olive. It still pulls a little warm on some people, but it's not as cool as ash. So ash is straight up cool. Sometimes a contour can pull too cool on people, meaning it's hard to blend. So if your contour isn't blending out really easily, that means you need a little bit more warmth in your contour. So you need to go in this direction, okay? So ash is by far, if you have a lot of redness in your cheek area or your forehead here, or you want a nose contour, by far, this one is the least likely to pull warm, okay? Next is, I would say this one's in a class all by itself. So this is Astoria. So let me just, gonna swatch ash next to Astoria for you so you can compare the difference. That's ash. So if you guys watch my videos, you know I wear Astoria on the daily. It is my go-to, okay? Can you tell the difference? So this one, obviously, you can build up. Contours can be built up in color just like our highlights can. Okay, so can you see how similar in tone they are? Ash is what I call Astoria's little sister. It is literally just a lighter version of Astoria. A lot of people that wear ash can totally wear Astoria and just apply less, okay? So Astoria is cool, okay? It doesn't have much warmth in it. If you have redness on your cheeks, and I would say anywhere from sandy to goddess, like you wear sandy mango goddess, you have to at least wear Astoria. If you have been matched to anything lighter in that mid-tone range, you're gonna have to apply so much to see it. You possibly will feel tacky in that region. So you shouldn't have to apply so much product that application is difficult. So if you can't see it well, say shade up a little bit on your contour. Astoria is kind of the only one within that kind of depth, I would say. I wish we had something with a little bit more warmth in that area because, again, Astoria is straight up cool. If it doesn't blend out on you, that means you need to go with a little bit more warmth. And if you already are at like the shade mango, you can't go any lighter. You won't be able to see those contours. You have to go up, okay? One shade darker. So this is Astoria and this is Indigo. So Indigo, even though it looks super scary, okay? Obviously, it's how much you apply. Okay, it's one shade darker, but can you tell how much warmer it is? So Indigo is one of those shades that, oh, I love it. And even very light, lighter skin tones can wear it. But it has a lot more red undertones. It's one of my favorites for getting more of a bronzy look because it's just got that kind of warmth like a bronzer. So if this isn't blending well, that means you have to go with more warmth. Try Indigo. Okay, anything darker than Indigo, there's only one more, and this is for those girls that have much darker skin tones, would be Cola, okay? So Cola is like, it does have a little bit of warmth to it. It's not straight up black like it looks like in the 10, that one will give the most depth and more shadow, I'd say, if you are icon or above in color. Okay, and then one that I get questions about all the time, because I see people color match to this shade, is shadow, okay? Let me just make this perfectly clear. Shadow is not meant for your face. I actually find the formulation feels different to me. Maybe it's just me, but I've never felt like the formula is the same as the others. So you see that? It just goes on very differently. So shadow is the most gray. So if you kind of compare it to Astoria, do you see how Astoria has touch more warmth? Okay, like I said, they're all gray based in some way, but just enough warmth to blend out. Shadow is designed only for the nose. It is a detail contour because our noses pull more red than the rest of our face. And a lot of people have very red noses, or they don't realize they have redness in their nose until they use a contour and then it pulls red on them. Okay, so this is meant for those of you that say, I mean, I can wear Astoria, that's not Astoria. I can wear Astoria on my nose as well, and it doesn't pull warm. But if you say you're wearing a shade like olive, you don't want to use that on your nose. It will most likely pull very warm. So you can have a shade specifically for those detail contour areas like that. Shadow is only for noses. It tends to not blend at all on the face and can look really patchy, okay? So if you do have shadow, I would recommend getting Astoria instead. Okay, so what if you have a color and you're saying, and you're come to me and you're like, but it's not showing up, okay? There's usually a few things that we can troubleshoot. I wear Mango and Sandy. I can wear either one, and I can get literally every one of those shades to show up on me except Walnut. Stone doesn't show up on me because it blends in with my freckles. If you are a freckled girl, I don't recommend Stone. Like I said, those warm shades will just kind of blur right in and just make it look like you have one big patch of freckles. Aspen looks odd to me because it actually pulls lighter than my skin, but I can wear it. It is all in the amount you use, the way you pick it up on the brush, how you're applying, and how you're blending. And usually if somebody comes to me and I've color matched them and I know I picked a shade dark enough, it is an application issue. So first things first, the formulation of our creams can make a huge difference, okay? So if you are familiar with 3D Foundation, you know how our highlights are a little bit more tacky and creamy to the touch. They are extremely pigmented, so you don't need to use much at all. And I always recommend just barely tapping to get your product on the brush. But when it comes to contours, it's the opposite. Like I can tap in, depending on how warm, like my fingers are getting warm now. Okay, you might be able to get a little bit on your finger after some time. But these, like right here, super dry, okay? Can't even see it, okay? So first of all, when you get a brand new contour, let's just act like this is a contour lid, okay? You pop it out of the tin for the very first time, okay? Our creams can have like a protective film over the top. And I feel like it's hit or miss with the contour or when it was actually manufactured. It's so that it won't dry out in the tin over time, which is why it has a good year shelf life, right? But sometimes you go to like, you know, swatch it or whatever, or try it for the first time and you're like, nothing's coming off, okay? Sometimes it has more of a film than others, and you have to kind of use the warmth of your fingers and rub off that top layer, okay? Or just totally just take something, wipe off the top of it, make sure you get down to the creams, okay? Also, over time, okay, these compacts are not airtight, right? Over time, they'll dry out, okay? So what I like to do is melt them back down after they start looking like this. You can tell exactly where I get my color, okay? Because this outside edge is like really dry, okay? I'm not getting anything off of that. Over time, they'll dry out. It doesn't mean they're ruined, doesn't mean you can't keep using them. I just melt mine back down. So I take a toothpick, drop this baby on this stove. I have a video called, it used to be called Mascara Hacks. Anyway, search hacks on my channel. You'll find it. It shows you how to melt them down and get them looking like new again. And plus, when you get a divot in the center and you can't get to the outside edges, it's easier just to melt them down, get them smooth, and you can pick it up on your brush a lot easier. Right after you melt them, they will be softer. So you got to know that when you are picking it up on the brush. But for the most part, you can also just kind of use the warmth of your finger if you're not ready to melt it down yet. And then suddenly you'll be able to get it off again. Okay. Knowing that these contours are all drier is very important. The consistency of our contours is opposite of our highlights. And our highlights are meant to be able to really buff out, to give a sheer coverage or be built up. You know, our contours are designed that wherever you place them, they're gonna stay there. Like I've seen like pictures of people swimming after their makeup, and their contours haven't budged, okay? These are designed to stay where you put them. They do blend out very easily, but they're not gonna blend out as much as our highlights will, okay? But they are designed that way. So when you tell me that your contour's super dry, I'm like, yes, I know this, right? That they're supposed to be, I promise, okay? It's for a reason. So let's talk about picking it up on the brush. I have other videos where I show you guys all the different brushes, but I'm just gonna be honest. If you are having trouble with your contour, just get this brush. It will make your life so much easier. In fact, every time I have a client tell me I finally got the detail and oh my gosh, contouring is so much easier now. Yes, it is. It was a game changer for me. Some of our other brushes, yes, you can contour with them, I'd say, but for actual, like, if you're having any issues with applying and getting it to blend out and getting it the look you want, just get the detail. The detail is my ride or die. In fact, I can't contour with anything else now because I've got it down to a science that I can apply this and blend so quickly and easily. Nothing else can do the job that this does. Once you have your brush and your creams, it's time to load your brush, okay? And when I talk about loading the brush, just please don't ever do this. You see what happens when you swipe in? Okay, so what happens when you apply that? You suddenly have chunks of contour where it picks up more in some areas and less in others. And then you're gonna have to go work on getting this stripe off your face and getting the perfect blend. Okay, when you swipe in, you are not loading your brush evenly. You're just, look at that. Like every time is just gonna be different depending on where it went on your brush when you swiped in, okay? Especially once you get down to where your creams are not smooth. Like that was my smooth one, but look what happens. It just picks up an uneven amount. And you guys know me, I am a scientist and I want to be able to control what I do to the point where I don't have to worry about how my brush wants to pick up the product that day. If I do it the same way every time, I will consistently get the same results. And so this is why my contour always looks the same, because I do it the same way every time, okay? So let me clean my brush real quick. I got asked the other day how to clean your brushes with this. So here you go. Brush cleaner, spray, swirl. Look at that. Oh, I didn't get it all. Keep swirling until clean. Greatest thing about this, it dries immediately, so now I can use it. Don't have to wait. Now let me show you how I recommend loading your brush with a even layer of color every time. Okay? Brush straight up and down. Get your compact flat. Okay? Turn your brush 45-degree angle. Touch the creams and then just gently pounce. Now this is a darker shade, so I'm not going to need to pounce as forcefully or heavily or anything like that. But do you see that suddenly you get an even distribution of color? Okay, now this brush is a little bit wide and depends on the size of your face. For me personally, if I was to pounce it in straight up and down, okay, and load the entire brush, it's gonna put more color on my face and I'm gonna have a stripe this big, okay, which I don't want. I want to be able to control the shadow directly under the cheekbone, okay? So I'm gonna show you guys on this side because I've already color corrected over here and we'll talk more about it over here as I show you there. If you can see it on your brush, you've got enough, okay? And now you just have to control the way you blend so you're not blending it all the way and having to add more. Blending, adding more, okay? You rarely will have to add more with this method, okay? So this method will give you the ability to contour, blend at the same time. You can control how light or dark it is depending on your preference, okay? So our brush is loaded, we're ready to go. Let's talk a little bit about placement. Some people just kind of draw on, you know, the 3 on the side of their face, and then they work harder on blending it out. I don't do that anymore because I want to blend as little as possible. Less blending gives me the most natural, consistent results. The more you have to work on blending, the more, you know, you're gonna have to have, oh, this side is more blended than this side, and then you're worrying about, is it even? Do I look natural? All of those things. And so by just say drawing a stripe where the color goes, that's fine as you're learning. But if you want to take your contour up a level, have strategic placement. Strategic placement can really help and give you the most lift because you're not going to accidentally put it too far down or something like that. The basics are the same, okay? I am going to find my cheekbone, okay? Roll to that hollow underneath, okay? Now, the angle can always change depending on your preference. I have an entire contouring for face shapes, right? But if you are just wanting to get the basics, it's just eyeball it from about the top of your ear to the corner of your mouth. And that is about the same line that everyone's contour bone goes to, okay? I feel like my hyperpigmentation is like right in that area already, okay? So once you have that imaginary line, you just want to cup your cheekbone and place the darkest part of your contour right there. Because if you accidentally get even a little bit farther down, you're going to shorten this area of your face, which will then not lift your cheekbones. It'll have the opposite effect and it will pull them down, okay? So then I like to go over to the corner of my eye and I like to never apply any farther in than that. Now I have deep smile lines, okay? If you also have deep smile lines like me, you'll understand. If you try to cup your cheekbones, you're gonna get it inside your shadow right here. You're gonna intensify that shadow, make it look like you have a mustache. It's not gonna look natural, okay? If you look at our faces, the way they naturally, okay, fade as we go in. Like naturally, if we just had really high, beautiful cheekbones, how does that look? As you turn your face, the darkest part of the shadow will be back here by your ear, and then it will gradually fade and ombre as we get towards the corner of our mouth, but we don't want any shadow here. Shadow will emphasize this. We just want our cheekbones raised. Our cheekbones don't go down here. This isn't cheekbone, okay? Now, if you want to pop your cheek, that's a different story. But you got to be really careful and really strategic. If you have smile lines, you got to make sure you're not getting anywhere near this area, okay? So for me, my rule and what works best for my face is that I just stop about here because it naturally will blend in slightly. So I'm already going to be at that point, okay? So I talk about cheekbones the most because that is where people have the most issues. I feel like foreheads, jawlines are optional depending on the size of your forehead and what you want to do down here, right? So cheekbones are the hardest part. Once you get that down, you'll be a contour wizard. Okay, so I'm going to show you placement and application now. We've got our imaginary line, okay? Where's the darkest part of the shadow? Back here by our ear. So we're not going to start placing the color right here. You're going to get a big blob of contour right there, and then you're going to have to really work hard to blend that away, okay? So obviously wherever you touch your face first, it's going to deposit the most amount of color, right? So you always want to touch it where the darkest part of your shadow will be, okay? Now I don't want you to start swiping on the product, okay? I want you to press, okay? Just like I pounce on my highlight, I'm gonna pounce on my contour. And I put on quite a bit, right? So I'm gonna show you guys how to blend this out, okay? So place the color. And we're along that imaginary line. We're gonna stop right here, okay? Now, I find the easiest way is to just kind of start pressing pretty vigorously, okay? Again, these contours are drier, okay? You don't necessarily have to start sweeping to get it blended, but if you start just pouncing and raising that brush upwards, okay, you're gonna bring up that color about right here, and it's going to kind of pull up your cheekbones even more, okay? So, since I put on so much, I'm gonna have to kind of pull as well. So, I'm gonna pull upwards. We never pull down the face because that's gonna pull down our cheekbones. Okay, we wanna distribute this color. So we're pressing and we're pulling upwards because that bottom part of the line where all the color was way too intense. Okay, now do you see how warm this is on me? This is indigo, so it is neutral. It's got a lot of warmth in it. It gives a very beautiful bronzy look, but I had already color corrected this side, okay? And I'll show you what it looks like over here when I don't. Okay, so for the most part, I'm blended. Obviously, I like my contour a little bit stronger. If you're brand new to contour, you're probably like, wow, that's way too much. I get it, okay? Always use the brush you apply your highlight with, whatever brush that might be, to kind of just think of it as a magic eraser. Doesn't have to be any highlight on it, okay? Just use the brush to blend, okay? Now, if it's just like way too strong, you can use a little bit of highlight, but I'd say just a clean brush, press it along the bottom. It will kind of blur it, okay? Press and pull. Now, I already had highlight on this side, so it gave me a really good blend, and I could just kind of move around that highlight and really get the perfect blend. Now, show you the difference to where when I don't color correct, so I have no foundation on this side. This is just bare skin, my redness, okay? I do have redness, and I wanna show you what a color that is neutral looks like if I don't color correct first, and how it blends if I don't put down a highlight first. Now, it is completely personal preference, depending on the coverage you want. Our contours are unlike any other on the market. In fact, they do give coverage, so you can put it down first. Now, a lot of people show the simplicity of just putting on your contour where it goes and putting on your highlight, blending it all together, and that works for a lot of people, don't get me wrong. For me personally, I have you can tell, my hyperpigmentation is along my contour line. My redness is in that entire area. And if I don't put any highlight down, I have more issues with that showing through, not getting coverage. The blend isn't as good. My redness will pull any contour more red. So let me just kind of show you what that would look like. I'm gonna do the same thing. Pounce, pounce, pounce. Press it on. Keep pressing. And after you've done this a while, like, it gets really fast, right? I'm just pressing. I'm like barely flicking upwards in this one. Okay, but I want to show you guys the difference in the warmth okay, the coverage as well. So I do have more hyperpigmentation here. Okay, so this will let your skin show more. If you have redness and your contour is pulling too warm, too red, too orange, first of all, try using a little bit of your highlight under it. If you're using a color corrector, you can try just using color corrector and then applying, or you can go to a cooler contour. So for me, even Astoria, which is cool, will pull warm on my skin tone. Now I like a little bit of warmth. I feel like it's still very pretty. Like it looks like I applied bronzer. So I don't have to apply bronzer when I do this method, but it's also a big personal preference. Okay, I took that off and I want to show you why this method of application can work for so many. And we're going to talk a little bit about when you have hyperpigmentation or spots, dark spots, anything within your contour area, how you can still contour, not emphasize the look of those dark spots. So first things first, I always recommend if you have dark spots within your contour, the contour isn't going to give enough coverage on its own. Depending on the color of your dark spots, I feel like hyperpigmentation, it can range so much depending on the darkness of the spot, the tone of the spot. So for me, I used a little bit of indigo on there, and we're going to see, I set it with setting spray so it can stay. And I'm going to kind of show you how I would correct that. Let's see, first of all, it's pretty dark. I don't think my normal mango will cut it. So let's just try it on one of them and see. Well, maybe it will. No, I can still see it. Okay, so if I can still see it through that, it tells me I need papaya. I'm going to use a little bit of my papaya, match the darkest tones of my dark spots. Okay. Just like I've shown, I have a video called Ultimate Color Correction, and it's showing under eyes when I used purple eyeshadow under them to show you the darkest under eye coverage. Same thing goes for dark spots. So I'm gonna use papaya, and then I'm gonna use my mango over it. So papaya doesn't work well without mango. Kind of then tone down that warmth a little. I'm gonna go ahead and correct the entire area of my face. Okay, I'm pressing this on so it doesn't move any of that coverage. Okay, then I'm going to press on my main shade, which is Sandy. Okay, so now I pretty much have my dark spots covered. But then you're like, okay, Sarah, but then I apply my contour and suddenly it moves. It moves all of those colors you just placed, because when we're layering, you gotta think, you start going in like this, all that coverage we just laid down is gonna shift on the skin, okay? I'm gonna show you Astoria this time. Okay, I'm gonna pounce in. Okay, now here is where this method can make all the difference, because if I was just to swipe on, it's gonna move all that coverage. But if I have learned how to contour by pressing, it's not going to move it. Okay, in fact, it's just gonna build up more coverage because our contours have coverage, right? So if you have dark spots within where you're contouring, it's just very simple. You can't pull after you correct, okay? You can if you know, like, okay, I don't have any in this region right here, so I can then pull there. But when you're applying and blending, if you can press on the color and keep pressing to blend, this motion isn't gonna move the product as much as this motion will, okay? And sometimes not choosing a darker shade will really help as well. So I would say the biggest thing with like knowing the contour color, if you are using a shade that is going on patchy, looks like dark spots, something like indigo is prone to this because it is so much darker. In fact, I can tell right here, it's not blended very well. Okay, I sometimes have to be a little bit more strategic when I use indigo because it is harder to blend out. But usually that tells you the color's too dark. If you are much lighter and you're using this, could be why. Another big thing with contour is your skin prep. If you haven't exfoliated lately, your contour might be going on patchy or not blending. That's also a very common issue. Okay, so let's do the forehead real quick. I'm just going to press it on right along my hairline, okay? Key with foreheads is just going upwards into your hairline so that you don't have any kind of white spot. Okay, now I go kind of on my temple just because I'm a little bit wider right here. This will narrow your forehead or your face. Okay, I don't go all the way down to here because I don't have a lot of space right here. Okay, that would take away that space. And then I'm gonna pull down onto my highlight to blend, okay? Never want a line here, you just always want that kind of ombre. We're just framing the face. So you don't necessarily have to contour your forehead, but if you have a short forehead, I would at least kind of put a little bit of color there to kind of just frame your face. Okay, when it comes to jawline, here's where I feel like for me, I like sticking with cooler contour if I'm trying to disguise my little pre-jowl area because it looks more like a natural shadow, whereas indigo will look more like a bronzer, and then it just doesn't look as natural there. So I am going to pounce in my full brush because now I'm not strategically placing, okay? I'm gonna start darkest part where my shadow would be the darkest would be under here, under my ear, okay? And then I'm just gonna kind of pull up under my jawline first, okay? I was asked the other day if you have a double chin. So of course, nothing can I think somebody said, how do you remove that? Okay, it's not gonna remove it, but we can disguise it, okay? All contour is playing with light and dark, okay? Light brings forward, dark recedes and pushes back. So if you want something to recede, you strategically put something darker on it. Now you can't go extreme dark, or then it won't look unnatural, it won't blend, but something like right here, if I'm wanting to strategically straighten that jawline, then I can kind of go up onto my actual jawline and just make sure it's blended really well. But it creates the illusion that my jawline goes straight instead of not. Okay, key is just blending, making sure you don't have stripe along the bottom of your jaw, anything like that. Yeah, another tip, if you're, say you normally wear something like indigo and it just one day you put it on, you're like, man, should have exfoliated, it's not going on smoothly, it's looking patchy today. If you have a shade like Astoria, which is cooler, this can kind of help blend it out better. Okay, sometimes I mix the two. If I apply one and it's just not blending well, guess what? I'll just use the other one, okay? Sometimes you just need to kind of adjust. I also like using both sometimes on Astoria as normal and then using the detail end of the detail brush and just putting a little bit darker of a shadow right under the cheekbone to kind of make them pop. That is also a great tip. All right, let's recap real quick. A few things about contour troubleshooting. First thing, how are you loading your brush? Don't swipe in. Make sure you are getting an even distribution of product. Realize that they are drier than your highlights. Don't just kind of tap in. In order to really see it, you got to be able to see it on the brush, then be able to see it on your face when it's pressed on, then just don't overblend. I feel like overblending is probably the number one, I would say my biggest recommendation for troubleshooting contour, because a lot of people are just a little scared of contour at first. They feel like they've got a stripe on their face and they need to just keep blending and blending. These creams do blend out very easily. So if you overblend, you won't be able to see it no matter the color you have. So as long as you are within the right range for based on your highlight, and obviously if you get more sun in the summer or start self-tanning, you might need to go up to that Astoria level of contour to be able to see it well. So if you feel like you're applying a lot of your contour shade, then it's your key to kind of move up. If you're not doing this blending action, you're good. Also, don't forget your perfector is a great tool to blend if you feel like you just need to kind of soften edges a bit. I wouldn't recommend this to blend like the whole thing. It can be very time consuming. Use your brush to blend is the easiest because they're drier. This doesn't move the product as easily. This will, make it so that you have to barely press or flick the brush upwards to blend. This is a game changer brush if you don't have it yet. One last thing I forgot to mention about longevity. I get asked a lot. So if you're applying your contour like I did over here and you are layering it over your highlight for more coverage and your contour is fading through the day, I ask you, first of all, is the rest of your highlight fading? Because if your highlight shade is too light and it fades, it will take your contour, your lip and cheek, anything you applied over it, along with it. And it'll all just look like you're not wearing any makeup. Or if you apply yours like this and you're not layering, well, I guess the first time when I didn't layer, if you're applying your contour first and then highlighting around it and your contour isn't lasting, I would ask, look at the ingredients of anything you're laying down on your skin before the makeup. So my number one issue usually with longevity, not a color issue, is do you have any silicones in your skincare or your primer or your moisturizer or your SPF? Silicones cause our makeup not to stick. They slip and slide, and then you'll notice you just have it fading through the day. That can be just an under the makeup issue. If you've checked those, you're not layering, and you're still having longevity issues, you might not be putting on enough or wearing a dark enough shade. If you are wearing something like walnut and you can see it right after you apply and then you're not seeing anymore, maybe just going a little bit darker. Use a setting spray. Sometimes it can help even as your skin is adjusting to the product to apply it a little bit heavier than you normally would, and then putting a loose powder and a setting spray over it to kind of lock it in as our skin is adjusting to the cream. That helped you kind of troubleshoot any issues you might be having with application or your shade. If you have any other questions on contour, please drop them in the comments below. If you need help with your color match or getting started with 3D foundation, or make sure you have the right colors, my color match request is in the drop box below the video. Just click the little arrow and you'll see it there. Don't forget to give yourself a little grace when it comes to contouring. I know my methods have changed greatly over the past 4 years with how I contour. It takes a little trial and error, takes a little experimentation to figure out the best way for you, but I promise you'll get there. Every day you apply it, the easier it will get and the more comfortable you will get with it as well. So thanks again for watching. Love you guys.